Hey guys, this is Cactus, and today I want to talk about the best comic book company out there.
Dark Horse?
No, Frank, not Dark Horse. Because you see, Dark Horse are pretty good, you know, Sin City, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In fact, Dark Horse are very good.
Dark Horse!
But Dark Horse comics do not have Batman. You read the title, so you knew exactly where this was going. Let me make my case. DC have some of the best storylines out there. 0 Hour, Blackest Night, Flashpoint, Death of the Family, and then V for Vendetta, The Watchmen, The Sandman, and even iZombie under the Vertigo line. That's just to name a few. And I'm not saying that Marvel don't have any good storylines, because that would be totally wrong. But in my humble opinion, they just don't grip the audience the same way that DC's do. Sure, all the Wars storylines are pretty good, but at their core, they're all pretty similar too. One Marvel novel I would definitely recommend, however, is Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, which rebooted Daredevil in exactly the way that was needed. So it might seem as though I'm trying to make you a DC elitist. In fact, I'm trying to do quite the opposite, because as you may be aware, DC are in quite a pickle. Back in 2012, or as I like to call them, the good old days, DC was booming. They just released the highly anticipated sequel to 2008's The Dark Knight, and it would go on to become the 16th highest grossing film of all time. In the same year, however, Marvel released the long-awaited The Avengers. 6 years of very careful and very clever planning all came together to make this film. If Iron Man was Marvel's cinematic birth, then The Avengers is its cinematic christening. The Amazing Spider-Man was also released in this year, but that's kind of irrelevant these days. In the same year, DC released the first season of Arrow. Which is fantastic, by the way. But here's where their problems began. In a year's time, Superman would be rebooted with the not-so-well-received Man of Steel. Personally, I like the Man of Steel, but stupidity and greed seem to have taken over the Warner Brothers' mind. As you would expect from a large film corporation, they looked to Marvel's Avengers and said, "We want to do that." At this point, DC never stated whether Stephen Amell's fantastic and modern portrayal of the Green Arrow would be introduced into their cinematic universe. But it was then confirmed at the beginning of this year that the DC cinematic universe and the now called Arrowverse would be completely separate. This was probably where Warner Bros. Zack Snyder went majorly wrong. DC could have given themselves a massive leg up just by introducing already established characters into the cinematic universe. Because they didn't, they spent most of Batman vs Superman just telling the audience in subtle ways, or not so subtle ways, that Justice League is happening. And even now it just feels like they're trying to beat other studios to the chase. The final installment of Avengers will be released in 2018. Justice League 2017, baby. Sinister 6 2016. David, you got 6 weeks to write a script for Suicide Squad. Oh, Sinister 6 is being postponed? Sorry, I can't hear you over all the sound of this money. Did you say Deadpool is super funny? Reshoot Suicide Squad, baby. And here their problems worsen. Suicide Squad was planned in 2009. 2009. They had 7 years to plan this film. The DCEU had only been established for 3 years, and their only film had very mixed reviews, yet they still wanted to go ahead and already create an extended universe. That's stupid. Now, the most criminal thing about that film is the costume designer. God, them costumes. But aside from that, the film was mediocre. To have 3 films and spend millions and millions on them for the public opinion to just be, that was okay, is not good enough. Going back to the series, Gotham gets a get out of jail free card here because it's very well done and very separate from everything else. It's very clear to the audience that it's on a completely different timeline to everything else, and that's what makes it work. But Flash and Arrow is neither here or there. It's a bit more difficult, and that makes me feel sorry for the actors. Stephen Amell has even come out before to say that he's not happy with the timing of the Flash casting. These characters are pieces of iconography themselves. You wouldn't have two James Bonds at once. You'd think that big corporate companies would realise this, because even from an economic standpoint, keeping the two universes completely separate is just stupid. Marvel haven't done this because Marvel don't do this because Marvel realise that children is where all the money is. Marvel realise that children identify certain characters and they love those characters. Case in point, the Fantastic Four films. Remember them? Remember how terrible they are? Cool. Now try and remember how terrible they were when you was a child. I'm not stupid. I know that DC is a lot less kid-friendly than Marvel, but audiences still identify with certain characters. Marvel's kind of fallen into their own trap here because it's becoming increasingly difficult for them to figure out how, or even if, the Defenders will play a role in their cinematic pieces. Because, let's be honest, Jessica Jones' tone is ever so slightly different to the tone of Ant-Man. These cinematic universes are big and complicated, and I can only hope that DC sort their situation out. To be fair, DC have cast some great lead roles. I like Henry Cavill's Superman, Ben Affleck's Batman is great, and what we've seen so far of Jason Momoa and Ezra Miller, that's pretty good too. On top of that, the Wonder Woman solo film is looking awesome so far, and Gal Gadot fits the role perfectly. Lots of other franchises are even stepping up to the plate to create their own cinematic universes now. That includes a Godzilla, King Kong monster universe, a horror monster universe with Frankenstein and Dracula, a horror slasher universe with the likes of Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers, and that's just the ones I know of so far. But I still think that DC's best decision would have been to postpone Justice League. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Here's a picture of me when I first decided to try out this hairstyle. That's all for now. Safe interneting, and adios, amigos. Back in 2012, or as I like to call them, the good old days, DC was booming. I did this last time, but that's such a